All right. So really glad that you could join us here this morning. And this mindful cardio is a program now that has been in my mind for almost a year, if not even a little bit longer. It really kind of came to fruition once we started to go into this lockdown with this pandemic. And in many respects, I view what we're doing here in mindful cardio as a culmination of my whole career. And so I've been doing mind body work primarily through teaching yoga for over 30 years. And I'm really grateful and appreciative for all those years I spent doing that. And to me, it really feels like it was sort of preparatory for what we're doing right here in mindful cardio. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I think that this work is the culmination and why I think it's so timely. So in the meantime, it probably goes without saying that these are unprecedented times, that we have this pandemic, we have sort of an unprecedented disparity among people in terms of their rights and the dignities that they enjoy. We have a polarization politically I can't remember in my lifetime. And then we have this election where things just seem to be getting more disrupted and more disturbed kind of as the days go on. And I think this is a time for us to be engaged in the world. And there are a number of contemplative practices that I think, whether intended or not intended, can sort of maybe pull us away from engagement. And, I think now, whether it's to look after children or grandchildren, or to plant a garden, or to do social justice work or political action work, I think this is a good time. This may be the time in our lifetime to do so. So what does this have to do with mindful cardio? I think it has everything to do with it. That whatever it is that we want to do or feel inspired to do, it's going to take some resilience. It's going to take mental resilience to stay open-hearted and compassionate no matter what goes on around us. It's going to take physical resilience because it might just be physically tiring to be out doing what needs to be done, whether it's gardening or doing ecological restoration, whatever your path is for your activities, it's going to take mental and physical resilience. And that is really the theme of what we do in mindful cardio, is we're bringing together the mental practices and we're bringing together the physical practices. Why? So that we can develop a joyful resilience, not some sort of stoic resilience, but the one that's open-hearted and just overflows. And that joyful resilience, so you can do what you need to do, whatever your path may be. And that's something that every mindful cardio session starts with, is that frame. We're doing these workouts, we're doing cardio, we're doing alignment work, we're doing meditation, so that we can enjoy the joyful resilience, so that we can do what needs to be done. So with that frame in mind, then what is it that we do? Well, one of the big goals is to make this a community. So calling this the mindful cardio community is not a mistake. It's not like a branding exercise. Oh, community is the new hot button. The idea of community, I think, is one of the main elements that makes mindful cardio, is we come together, and of course we can't be in the same space close together like we used to be able to, but we can now leverage these technologies to still come together. And so we come together by doing these classes, and it can oftentimes be helpful simply to know that right here, right now, there are other people scattered all over the world that have come together with the same intentionality. And joint intentionality is a really powerful force for humans. That's like humans at our best. So we have that joint intentionality that we are doing these things so that we can be out in the world doing our work. Then we also have the coming together that helps to increase what in the exercise world is called adherence. That one of the things that we know is that people who embark on an exercise routine, that at least 3/4 of them will fall off that routine within a matter of 2 months. And the scientists have been looking at this for many decades. And so every last idea has been tried. Okay, so a study that I cite oftentimes, people who have had a really major heart attack, and it's really clear there's a fork in the road. If they start exercising, they will have a better life. They will live longer with better health. And if they don't exercise, they're going to die far sooner and have much less energy and quality of life and so forth. So you think, okay, that's pretty stark. They're all going to exercise, right? No, it's the same stats. 3/4 of them fall away. And then if you add in, well, if you live longer, you can see your grandchildren and so on and so forth. You think, okay, that's the hook. Same result. They stop exercising. And the same with education programs, like physical education in the schools, I hate to say it, has by and large failed. That most people are still not exercising, even though we know that it's good for this, that, or the other thing. So you might be thinking, wow, mindful cardio is a downer. Anderson's saying that people don't exercise and all these good reasons that they don't stick with it, but there's a silver lining. There's one thing that has consistently been shown again and again and again and again to increase adherence in exercise, and that's to do it with other people. We are communal creatures. External circumstances notwithstanding, we are communal creatures. And so by that joint intentionality of us coming together as a virtual community, will make it more likely that we can stick with these practices that are so incredibly beneficial for our bodies, our brains, and our minds, that can help give us a joyful resilience to do what we need to do. So community is a really big part of it. We come together to do the classes, that's part of the community. We come together, we have a private group on Facebook, and a lot of great dialogue and interactions occur there. And then we also work with a workout app called Strava, that a lot of us are active on Strava, and then we can watch, oh, this person's doing this and that, and we can cheer for each other, and that can be a real nice incentivizer to stick with these programs. So we have this community that's formed, the Mindful Cardio community. This can help us stick with these practices that we know can be really beneficial. And we get to do it together, which to me is kind of fun. Like right now, I get to see a lot of your faces. And I don't know about you, but this brings me a lot of joy to think that we're not out here in some sort of virtual bubble, disconnected from other human beings. So that is really the frame for why I developed this program. And in a few moments, I'm going to talk what are the elements, what are the pieces. But before I do that, I'd be curious to hear if you have any comments or any questions on anything that I've said so far. And so if you want to just throw up your real hand or your virtual hand and then unmute yourself. Yeah, so any comments, any questions? Julie, I see your hand. I see your real hand up. So if you can unmute yourself. And
Good morning. Well, I am waiting for my trainer still, but I hope that we do more of these kind of Zoom chats like this also, because when I'm doing them, you're doing it at my time, 5:30 here on the West Coast. So generally, I'm going to be doing them a little bit later than 5:30 a.m.
yeah.
or 5 a.m. So I hope that we come together like this once in a while.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so Julia mentioned her trainer, and so that's a trainer for her bicycle. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we can do our cardio. And then, Julia's representative, we have people literally all over the world, in Europe, in the Middle East, in South Asia, certainly West Coast, East Coast, everywhere in between. And so some people will be watching real time, and some people will be watching delay, and these recordings are made available for you to do anytime, any place. The other point I really appreciate is bringing up these kind of dialogues right here. And my goal with Mindful Cardio is at least once a month for us to come together, and whether it's a Q&A session or something more sort of presentational like this right here, for us to come together. Because as I mentioned before, it's just so fun to see all your faces. Thanks, Julia. What are the components? And so the components are 3, and I'm going to go through them in some detail. We do 30 minutes of cardio, and then we do 20 minutes of what I call movement lab. And so it's going to be a hybrid of yoga, Pilates, and some calisthenics. And then we end with a guided meditation. So the 3 are the cardio, movement lab, and meditation. Great question. So anybody else? Yeah, Linda.
I just wanted to comment that I agree that the community makes such a big difference. It's also extremely helpful to me to hear what the benefits are while I'm doing it. So when you're talking and you're listing benefits and you're citing all the wonderful research that you have access to, it makes a huge difference for me.
Really great to hear. Awesome. Yeah, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that's one of the things that I do all throughout the cardio is to talk about the physiology of what we're doing and how it benefits your body, and then the neurophysiology, because we can't really separate the cardio from the mental aspects. I think that's something that's unfortunately happened in our culture. We have working out and we have contemplation, and there the twain shall meet. But the beauty is they're incredibly complementary. And that's one of the other things I hope to do with the mindful cardio is to help bring them together, because it's kind of like chocolate and peanut butter. Yeah, they're great by themselves, but they're way better together. Thanks, Linda. So anybody else? Yeah, Declan.
Okay, unmute. There you go. Comment as well. Yeah, I love the community aspect, and I'm really glad that we're doing this. And I hope that Pilates and Harrison will consider maybe keeping this video as an intro, kind of having it out there for a long time, because as I invite family, and I've been at it for a few months, and I've heard all the wonderful benefits, and I have a whole different understanding than someone starting in. I can give them a little bit and get them started, but it's like kind of why and what it's about. It would be awesome to have it somewhere in the library or
That's a really great idea.
available, because people will come in at different times, and for us that started like the summer or when you rolled it out, we just have a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, great point. And so we are recording this in high def, and
Yeah.
so we'll plan on putting this in the archives. So good
Perfect.
point.
Thank you for all of it. I mean, it's really changed my body and the way I'm handling things and seeing things. And I'm looking forward to more. I'm also hoping to get a trainer soon, figuring out what I can do for my bike and what's simple enough for me to not get overwhelmed, like too much tech into it. So, all right, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right, so I'll take more time for questions here in a bit. So the three components. So I'm going to start with the cardio and then go sequentially through the cardio, through the movement lab, and the meditation, and talk a little bit about how we approach it and then why we're doing it, what the benefits are. And so cardio is, it would be really hard to overstate how good it is for your body. And, just in brief, that doing regular cardio, excuse me, is probably one of the very best things you can do for mental health and physical health. And so in the realm of mental health, we have really good scientific evidence that cardio is really good for managing stress, really good for working with anxiety, really good for working with depression. At the level of neural circuitry, what we see is that even 15 years ago, the thought was the brain cells you have by the time you're a teenager, that's it. It's all downhill from there. Well, the evidence is really flipped on its ear, that you are growing brain cells the whole rest of your life. But the trick is, it happens when you do cardio. There's significant neurogenesis that occurs when you do cardio, not when you do strength training, not when you do stretching, not when you even do core work. Like, I love Pilates, but Pilates doesn't do this. Cardio does. That neurogenesis then builds in specific regions of your brain, primarily related to memory, your hippocampus. So wouldn't it be cool to keep your memory throughout your whole lifespan? And then those neurons stay if you then do cognitive work to embed them into circuitry. So this is one of the reasons we do these things in the order we do, that basically cardio kind of opens up your brain and actually creates more neurons. And then when you do some thought work or some contemplative work, it helps to embed those neurons into circuitry. You get to keep them. So that's pretty cool. So that's going to be one of the benefits. In fact, there's so many benefits to cardio that the esteemed British medical journal, The Lancet, went so far in a special edition to say, cardio could be considered a miracle cure. If a scientist could do something or develop something that gave you all these benefits, we would hands down call this a miracle cure. So a lot of benefits for your brain, the hardware of your brain, benefits for your affect, how you see the world, how you experience the world, how you approach the world. And then all these benefits for your body. You do cardio and it helps with your metabolism. You do cardio and it helps you to have more energy centers in your muscles. That the energy centers in your muscles, they're the mitochondria. And you do cardio, you build more mitochondria. You have more energy. And then in addition, you're going to create these changes in your heart. Your heart literally changes shape. It remodels for the better. And you have all these changes in your vascular system. You build more capillary beds. You have more capacity. And this really pays off as we get older. See, part of the aging process is your aerobic capacity naturally will decline as you age. And then you hit a certain point and it's really hard to execute your daily life. Well, that's if you don't do cardio. But if you do cardio, you can arrest that decline. In fact, you can reverse that decline. And that's going to help all of us as we age stay more active and more independent and more able to do what we have to do. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is over the past 2 decades or so, I've seen a lot of people have gotten away from cardio. And they're doing really good stuff like yoga or Pilates or whatever it may be, but they are not doing cardio. And I feel like this is kind of my mission right here, is that's fine when you're young. But as you get older, and hopefully all of us will, there's a natural degradation in your cardio capacity that at some point is going to bite us all in the backside. Now is the time for us to do our cardio. And that can be pretty difficult because, to motivate yourself to get out in the cold, dark days that are ahead, or to motivate yourself when the bed is all warm and snuggly. And I talked about at the outset, it can be really hard to do. But to do it with a community makes it much more likely. Now, the cool thing is there's a lot of great exercise physiology research out there. There's actually sort of a threshold for the amount of activity. And above that threshold, people tend to do really well. And below that threshold, they tend not to do so well. And that threshold is 150 minutes per week. 150 minutes per week of moderate activity. So if you notice, mindful cardio is 3 days a week. We do 30 minutes of cardio each time and 20 minutes of movement lab core sort of work. If you join us 3 days a week, whether live or recorded, you hit your 150 minutes per week. Then anything else you do, whether it's parking the car farther from the store or taking the stairs instead of the escalator, that's all going to be icing on the cake. And so this whole program has really been designed, what can we do to cultivate mental and physical resilience so we can be engaged citizens during this really, unprecedented time. So cardio, how are we going to do it? Well, I'm pretty specific about how we do it. In general, what I find is most people, when they do cardio, whether it's walking or jogging or biking, whatever it is, either work out too intensely or not intensely enough. So in the exercise physiology world, in the strength and conditioning world, it's often said people's easy days are too hard and their hard days are too easy. So thankfully, what we can do is we can quantify this. We can use biofeedback. And the biofeedback that we use is monitoring heart rate. And I know when I say monitoring heart rate, I can almost always see a few people kind of get that look in their eyes. This is so that you can work out and get the optimal benefits. Then in my experience, most people, when they go to do cardio, work too hard. And when they work too hard, they get injured. When they work too hard, they feel depleted. And if you get injured or depleted, what's that going to do to your adherence to the cardio program? It ends, doesn't it? And typically with cardio, a day becomes a week, becomes 2 weeks, and before you know it, you've not been active for a few months. That's preventable. And the way it's preventable is to use a biofeedback device. Could be as simple as your smartwatch. And so everybody's optimal training zone is a little bit different. It depends on your age, it depends on your prior training history. There are a lot of variables involved. We can make it incredibly complicated, or we can make it very simple. I have a heart rate zone calculator that's part of the course materials for mindful cardio, and I use an equation that's called the Karpinen equation. And all you have to know is what your resting heart rate is and how old you are. And you plug that in, and those two are going to give you what your heart rate zone is. So for example, for me to be in my optimal training zone is between 125 heartbeats per minute and about 135 heartbeats per minute. And that training zone confers the maximum benefit. I'm going to talk more about why that's so important right now during COVID, is to work in that, it's called zone 2. There are 5 cardiac training zones. Zone 1 is the easiest. Zone 5 is you're right at the edge of failure. Zone 2 is on the easier side. More benefits there than paradoxically working out super intently. And that's kind of paradoxical because most of us think that, oh, when you do cardio, more intense, more better, high intensity. High intensity has all the good press right now. But for most of us, we're going to do it for a short period of time, fall away, and not end up long-term getting the good benefits. So that's a lot of me talking blah, 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 blah. So to summarize, cardio, super good for you. Really hard to overstate how important it is. And not any old cardio, but oddly enough, more moderate cardio, more better. So before I keep going, any comments, any questions, anything I've said thus far? Yeah. So Shelley.
Ellie, yes. So what if we don't have any kind of equipment at home for cardio? I mean, I tend to walk. That's my, I have a lot of physical issues that kind of limit what I can and can't do. So I have to be mindful of those. And for me right now, with some of these issues, walking tends to be the best. I am looking into maybe getting some piece of equipment during the winter that will be helpful since I can't walk out in the ice. But so what, like, do we go on our own walk for 30 minutes or how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Shelley. So to step a little bit back and pan back, there are a lot of different options for how you can get your cardio. I, for example, take my bike that I love to ride around the hills and I put it on a bike trainer. And so my bike I already have becomes my piece of cardio equipment. I didn't have to go out and buy something special for this. I know a lot of people are using a trainer that they put their existing bicycle on. Some people are using an elliptical, some people are using a treadmill, and Shelley, a lot of people, I dare say the majority, don't have any cardio equipment. So what some people are doing is I made up a routine on a video of calisthenics, and that works for some people. I also made up a handout for people doing step-ups, and you can do that step up, step down, step up, step down, and that can get you aerobic pretty darn quickly. And then a lot of people are actually listening as they go for a walk around the neighborhood. And you'd be welcome to go out and take a 30-minute walk, but actually a lot of the content of the course I deliver during the cardio portion. And so if you can keep listening, and a lot of people just put their phone in their pockets, and then they just are listening in their earbuds as they go take a walk, and then they can look at the clock and go, oh, it's about 5 minutes till they come back in the house to get on their mat.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I have a treadmill, but I don't find it as motivating as going outside. So I don't know if you think it would be better to use the treadmill or walking outside as long as I can.
I'd say hands down, walk outside as long as you can. We have great scientific evidence about forest bathing and the value of being out in nature. And so, in these northern climates, at some point it's just too icy, it's too dangerous, then cardio equipment is really helpful. But until then, when I have my free time and I go for a workout, I'm outdoors.
Okay, so just use And so there is a way to access the class through my phone that I can just listen to it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you can access the class. They're all up on they're on YouTube, and then you can just come in through the YouTube app on your phone and access them real time. Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that kind of logically leads me to one of the aspects that I do during the cardio is that during the cardio, you can also practice mindfulness, that meditation and working out do not have to have a firewall in between them. So throughout the whole 30-minute duration of doing the cardio, we keep coming back to some of the key points of mindfulness. That awareness of the body, awareness of the breathing, and that can then help support sticking with the cardio. It's not so mindless as it can so often be. The other point here is that when we do cardio, there's a natural openness that occurs. And what we implant in that openness, I think, is really salient. When we go to a gym, what we see is all the people on their cardio machines watching the news or watching popular events and celebrities and whatnot. Is that what we really want to implant into our hearts and minds? Cardio time is precious. It's like there's an opening of your mind and your heart. And what do you want to implant in that? And that's an ongoing recurring theme in mindful cardio, is to come back. What's our motivation to be here? It's to cultivate this resilience. To do what? So we can be out in the world and do what we need to do. And then along with that, as we do the cardio, I always have a theme of something I'm talking about, either in exercise physiology or neurophysiology or some combination thereof. So for example, this past week, I've been talking about motor learning, that when we have a habit in the body, what does that mean? Where does it come from? And how can we address those habits? And so I've been talking about the sensory receptors in the body that feed stimuli to the brain, what parts of the brain are involved with perceiving that stimuli, how do we then work with these habits, these motor patterns. And so what I find is that exercise is a lot more fun if we know why we're doing it and what we're doing. And so along the way in the cardio, there's always going to be a theme so you can learn more about your body and learn more about why we're doing what we're doing. Julie, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question about the cardio time, like 150 minutes, but how small a chunk can you do? Like, okay, I kind of, kidding on the square, it was, I'm stepping up and down on a kitchen stool for 5 or 7, 8 minutes, but I might do that 3 times a day. Is that little chunk worth anything? Do you get to count those minutes, or is that really not long enough?
If you would ask this question 15 minutes ago, or not 15 minutes ago, 15 years ago, I would have said they're not worth much. But the evidence has come through is that the increment doesn't really matter. 15, 20 years ago, the thought was it has to be 20 minutes. If it's not 20 minutes, forget about it. That's been pretty much refuted. These moments add up. So taking the stairs instead of the elevator counts. Parking far away from the door counts. 5 minutes of step-ups count. It's all additive. And so yes, in mindful cardio, we do 30 minutes of cardio, then we do 20 minutes of mindful movement. That's 50 minutes at a shot. So that's really nice. But then anything else you do, the examples you used are really great. To take an extra walk around the block, it all adds up. And the cool thing that we see is that the number of minutes that you spend doing gentle cardio, that's not high intensity, it's a different thing, high intensity, gentle cardio, the benefits accrue the more that you do. And to my knowledge, in the research fields, they have not found an upper limit to that. So to take a longer walk and to do your 150 minutes and maybe even, add another hour, 2 or 3 per week will help create more of that resilience. And one last thing I want to mention, the zone 2 cardio is the best zone for your immune system. So when you do super high intensity cardio, there is a window after that workout where your immune system is a little bit impaired. Now, we're not talking your immune system is flattened or anything, but it's not at its peak. So this is one shift I've made in my training in the COVID era, is that historically what I do is I do mainly zone 2, and I do some high intensity. High intensity is good. I don't want to portray it as being bad. But since COVID, in the past 6 months, I'm not doing high intensity work in the interest of trying to keep my immune system as strong as possible. So the zone 2 gentle cardio has a lot going for it. High intensity is great in moderation, but in my experience, culturally, people are doing too much high intensity. They're getting injured. They're not staying active. Excellent. All right. So now I want to talk a little bit about Movement Lab. So Movement Lab is going to be based on what I learned from 30 years of teaching yoga and from 12 years now of teaching Pilates. I love those systems. That being said, what I found is each system I feel has its strengths and its weaknesses. In my experience, the primary weakness is they're not cardio. And a lot of people have put all their eggs in the basket of movement forms that do not include cardio. So including the cardio, here I am back at cardio. I think it's that important. But doing some mindful movement can be really useful. Yoga, Pilates, calisthenics. Because as we get older, we have injuries, we have this, that, and the other thing, and our bodies get kind of misaligned. We lose our core strength. And so we spend 20 minutes doing yoga-based, Pilates-based movements to help maintain our youthful flexibility, to help build and maintain core strength, and to help cultivate alignment in the body. And this is going to help us stay resilient for the long haul. The order is specific. Cardio first, get warmed up. Then once your muscles and joints are warm, then do the alignment and the core work. And then move into the meditation. So the Movement Lab occupies 20 minutes out of the 1 hour segment. So it's quite a bit of it. But I think a lot of us already know that aspect pretty well. A lot of us know each other through yoga, through Pilates. And so I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I think we already know that domain pretty well. I see some people nodding. So what is going to be forthcoming here starting the next week or so is in the Movement Lab portion, we will be using some dumbbells. And the reason for this is that muscle mass is really important as you get older. Now, when you're young, walking up the stairs, walking down the stairs, picking up a gallon jug, you're going to develop enough muscle mass to get by, no problem. But those of us over 40, if you know anybody over 40, we got a downhill thing that's happening. We are losing our muscle mass. Now, at a certain point, that's not a big deal. You don't really notice it until the horse is out of the barn and it's running down the driveway. And that's one of the things I noticed in teaching so much yoga for so many years is young people, they'd have sufficient muscle mass just by doing what they do. But in the absence of doing activities that build muscle mass, there is an inevitability that you'll lose enough muscle mass that it either impairs your bone density, your joints become more vulnerable and more likely to be injured because you don't have enough muscle mass. Muscle mass is related to metabolic health, specifically related to insulin resistance and prediabetes. More muscle mass, more better. And many of the activities, let me just own it, that I love to do don't build muscle mass. And so that's going to be something that's starting in a few weeks. We're going to add in more of is more body weight exercises and using light dumbbells. Don't worry, we're not going to, get huge weights and strain our neck in the process or anything like that. But having more resistance becomes increasingly important as we get older. So a study that I like quite a lot is grip strength. So grip strength can be measured pretty readily. At age 60, grip strength is the strongest predictor of your longevity. The strongest. It's held up better than anything else. Better than blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, your grip strength. Now, of course, we know that grip strength by itself isn't that big a predictor, but it's proxy for your muscle mass. And having that greater muscle mass in your whole body is a profound predictor of how well you're going to age. So that's going to be something that I'll be rolling out more and more this coming fall into the winter, is using some light resistance to build the muscle mass, because yoga builds strength, Pilates builds strength, but strength and muscle mass are two different things. You can get stronger without building muscle mass. We're going to work on getting stronger and building muscle mass. So that was a little sidetrack. See, I love to talk about this physiology stuff. So last thing I want to talk about is meditation. And I'm not talking about meditation last because it's third on the list for me. Those of you who know me know that this is one of my passions in life, is to share meditation and to meditate. And like cardio, I could spend the whole rest of the day talking about the benefits for your physical health and your mental health. And I have the great privilege to work at the Center for Healthy Minds, where we're very actively engaged with research on the various benefits of meditation practice. And it's kind of astounding, from your gut health to your immune system to your ability to sleep and stay asleep. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And it can be hard to do. You know, left to our own devices to set the timer or to get out the app and to do the meditation, it can be kind of hard to stick with it, can't it? So we embed the meditation into mindful cardio, so that doing the mindful cardio program, you get half an hour a week of meditation in. Then anything else that you do is going to be icing on the cake. And kind of like cardio, more meditation tends to be more better. But at least you got that 30 minutes a week baseline in. Now, I introduce all sorts of different kinds of meditation. This morning we used mantra meditation, which can sound really esoteric and exotic. It wasn't some mantra coming from a different culture. I invited participants to think of a word that's inspiring, to think of a phrase that's inspiring, or recalling a prayer that's meaningful for you. And then to use those as your mantra, repeat them quietly to yourself. So that's one form of meditation I teach. I also teach breath awareness, tried and true classic technique, awareness of sound. So I'm saying these examples is that we're not doing one monolithic meditation has to always be this way, no other way. Introducing different varieties of meditation. So hopefully you can find techniques that work well for you. Now, why this order? Why not the meditation first? Well, as I mentioned, when you do cardio, there tends to be a natural openness that occurs in your brain, your mind, and your heart. And that openness supports meditation practice. And many people report when they sit down to meditate, whether it's on the floor or a chair or leaning back, you know, whatever position you may use. When you do your cardio and mindful movement and then the meditation, many people report that supports their meditation practice. It helps them meditate. So the three, in my view, the whole exceeds the sum of the parts. The cardio by itself, if you do nothing else, is really great for your body, brain, and mind. Meditation in isolation, same thing. And a lot of us, we've worked together doing yoga and Pilates. Really cool practices, aren't they? But together, they are mutually beneficial. And then together, in community, I think we can get through this hard time. But we can't do it by ourselves. We can do it together. And that's one of my goals here in Mindful Cardio, is for us to come together in community to do these mind-body practices so that we can develop and cultivate and grow our joyful resilience, so that we can go out and do what needs to be done. So that's really the essence of what this program is. And I'd welcome any comments and any questions. Any reports? How has this worked for you? So Jack a little bit earlier shared with us how it's been beneficial for her. So yeah, a little bit of open time now for comments or questions.
I just have a comment in support of meditation. My husband has been doing it for, I'd say, 50 years religiously, and he's retired, but when he was working, didn't always get to twice a day, but he does twice a day for 20 minutes. And he is my strongest, he's cheering me on to do it. I have a hard time sticking with it, but he feels clearly it has made a major difference in his life. So I just wanted to throw that out as a motivator because I think it's really cool.
That's so great to hear, Shelley. Now, did you say 15:15 or 50:50?
He does 20 minutes twice a day. So,
Okay.
50.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and, he's found it. I mean, clearly, if he didn't find it beneficial, he wouldn't do it that long. I mean, and, he's committed. When we go on vacation, whatever, he finds the time for at least once a day, but he finds he's just functions better if he can do it twice a day. So I just think that's incredibly motivating and speaks to the benefits of meditation.
Yeah, I'm feeling really inspired by that right now. As you know, I've similarly found that in my life, meditation has been so supportive to whatever it is I've been able to accomplish, is largely related to that foundation of meditation. So thanks for sharing. It's really inspiring to hear about his commitment.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Any comments, any questions? Yeah, Linda.
I just wanted to comment. I hope I can pick the right word for this. I've been meditating for 30 years. And what I'm noticing with doing it with you 3 times a week, or it's even been more sometimes because I do your other movement lab. The little nuggets you put out are getting in my bits in a way that is more supportive than anything I've done before. Just this little reminder of, especially how it's normal to be distracted. Because I have a tendency to feel like I'm not good enough at this meditation thing, even after 30 years. And now when that comes up, your voice comes right in. And I have this reminder kind of embedded in my bits that, it's normal to be distracted and what to do about that, because you also say how to come back and that kind of thing. So I appreciate that very much.
That's really great to hear. And one of the things I'm really excited to do, and this will be part of my dissertation at the UW, is to take a look at how meditation supports adaptations to exercise. And we don't have a tremendous amount of evidence just yet, it's more anecdotal, is that by exercising and then meditating, it does seem like there's an openness that facilitates or supports both practices, that it goes bidirectional. And it's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this program is I've had a number of people report how challenging it can be to meditate and then doing it after cardio. They may hear things that they hadn't heard before. And there does seem to be that openness. Thanks for sharing, Linda. And I see Howard has his hand raised. Howard.
Hi, Scott. Question for you. Could you suggest a couple of mid-range bike trainers that you think would get the job done? I'm not in a position to go the Peloton route, which I think is a bit of a joke. And there are entry-level trainers, but they can break down very, very easily. So if you have a favorite brand or one that seems to hold up well, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I just typed it into the chat, Howard. Ceres is a local company based here out of Madison, Wisconsin, and they make good stuff. And they have a whole product line from the most basic all the way up to, you can drop thousands and thousands of dollars. I just muted you, Howard, because there's some background noise. If you want to unmute, go ahead and do so. So I use a pretty entry-level Ceres. You can spend a few $1,000s. I spent literally $200. It's good enough. It just has to hold my bike up, give me a little bit of resistance, ideally not be too noisy. That's the main thing you get in the Ceres product lineup. Is you go higher up, they tend to be quieter. So what I'm using here, when you watch my videos, I'm using their fluid trainer. Pretty basic. Yeah, I think it costs $200. The one thing I'll say right now, cardio equipment is hard to get. It's been hard to get since March. And so if you're thinking of doing this, check Craigslist. Because there are always people that are cleaning out their basement and trying to get rid of stuff. And they're basically just clear it out, get it out of here. It's almost free. And then failing that, you may want to go to your bike shop and get on a waiting list or pre-order to get the trainer. Because like, talking earlier with Shelley, if you can get outside now, more power to you. But we're not that far away between the darkness and the cold and the ice that we aren't going to have that option. And so, for example, a friend of mine uses a rowing machine, and they ordered their rowing machine back in April, and it's due to be shipped next week. So yeah, if you're interested in cardio equipment, you want to get on it, because I don't think they're that backed up right now, but we're not the only ones thinking the same way. Yeah, great question, Howard. Anybody else? Yeah, Julia.
I just want to say that I put my order in for the Ceres Fluid Trainer maybe 2 weeks ago, and they expect it to be here maybe in a week. So they are about 2 or 3 weeks out. At least they were in Eugene, but maybe it's better where you are.
Yeah, well, that's super new. That's really good to hear, because for a while they were really backlogged. Awesome. Anybody else?
I will give a shout out for how great I feel. I've noticed that after starting, I did a lot of Pilates when you guys started to go online, and then shifted more towards the cardio, feeling like my body needed it. And I have more energy, more endurance, more strength, and I'm mostly excited to get out of bed on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and start to, climb up and down my stairs, as everyone is doing their routine. So, yeah, shout out that I feel great,
Great.
and I love doing it. So
Really glad with my heart to hear that.
And another thing I'll add, when they're talking about the meditation, I have been more careful, like if I go out for a walk, I'm more careful what I do when I come back. So that's not when I go check the news or get on Facebook or those sorts of things. Just mindful that that time is more of a precious time. Mm-hmm. And I want to take care of it, take care of me, take care of my brain.
That's a really great point. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the physiology of that post-exercise period. It's called EPOC, the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption period. And that's a precious window. And it's a really good window for learning. And so when I'm really trying to cram information into this brain of mine, sometimes put everything aside, go do a real quick cardio workout, then come back upstairs. And it really feels like I can integrate and retain a whole lot better. So I just want to keep an eye on the time here. I want to talk a little bit more about how our programs work. I think this will be a review for a whole lot of you. Mindful cardio is part of a bigger tent at Pilates on Harrison. And so the way that we work is we do a monthly subscription, and that monthly subscription, you can take any class you want, as much mindful cardio as you want, our core classes, Pilates classes, yoga classes, bar classes. It all comes under the tent of your monthly subscription. So we also want to recognize that right now we have really super uncertain times, and that may impact people that you know, or maybe for yourself, where things are at financially. We have a pay what you can program. You tell us what you can afford. Yeah, we'd love the full price. It's $95 a month for a full subscription to access everything. But maybe that doesn't work in your friend's budget or your offspring's budget or your budget. So we have people paying $5 a month, people paying $120 a month, and then everything in between. And so the goal here is that we come together and we support ourselves. We create this community so that we can be at our absolute best. And we don't want to have finances be a barrier to that. And so, yes, you can do individual classes, but in all honesty, it's not very cost effective. The subscription is really where it's at. And then you can take all the classes that we offer at Pilates on Harrison. And then we have people who have started at $95 a month. Maybe they lost their job, went down to whatever, then got a job, went back up. You can change it month by month. It's not like you're locked into anything. So I'm going to type in the name of the company, Saris, S-A-R-I-S. And they make pretty darn good stuff.
I have
Yeah,
a question
Shelley.
about the monthly subscription. So I got initially, I'm in Eau Claire, and so I'm just kind of you're kind of new to me through Ingrid's class. And so when I first got connected, I got the $130 10 class pass.
Yeah.
So I wanted to use that up before I got the monthly subscription. So does the monthly subscription, is it only the beginning of the month, or can you do it like mid-month to mid-month, or how does that work if you're trying to use up something else first?
Yeah. Well, firstly is welcome, and we are just so happy that Ingrid joined our faculty. We're just so excited, and I know just what a great addition. We're so grateful that she's part of the team. Then answering your question directly, the month can start at any time during the month.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the first. So use up what you've already purchased, get your money's worth, and then when that's expired, then you can do the monthly subscription.
Okay, and I also just have to shout out that Lisa has been so helpful. I've had so many questions, and she's just been so nice and so helpful that I just wanted to let one of the owners know that she's just been great. So
That's so awesome to hear. I mean, we're Colette and I we just wish we could clone Elisa because we so appreciate what she does, and she's such a bright light that the interactions, that's who she is. Like, she is just so kind and open-hearted and patient. So it's so great to hear it. And yeah, we love Elisa.
And I didn't know she was a teacher as well. So I mean, that's just, so yes, you should clone her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is remarkable. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, so the mindful cardio community is ongoing, and Colette and I sometimes like to travel, and what's been really fun is we take it on the road with us. And some of you maybe remember back in August, we were in Colorado, and we were doing mindful cardio from our porch out in the sunshine. And so we're going to continue doing this and are super excited to watch our community grow. If you ever have any comments or any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. You could also on Facebook, you get to join the Mindful Cardio Facebook group by taking one Mindful Cardio class. And so it's been really fun as people are sharing different tips and tricks. And we've been talking quite a bit of late about cooking beans and different ways to cook beans to get the maximum nutritional benefit. And so we also start to go into nutrition a little bit too, and how to eat in a way that's more sustainable for your body, more sustainable for the planet. And that's been really fun to do too. And Melanie, really good to see you. And we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Well, great. Julia, did you have your hand up?
Could you just repeat that grip strength stat again, that fact?
Yeah.
I was just kind of blown away by it, and I have to let it sink in again.
It was kind of interesting. So it was actually my first year in grad school. And so every week I have a seminar in the kinesiology department. So he was a presenter in the public health field, specifically with gerontology. And, there's always the interest is what are the predictors of longevity, especially once someone makes it to 60 or so. And so, you'd think it's going to be blood pressure and blood sugar and, previous heart attacks or previous cancer, all this and that. And they're not very strong predictors, oddly enough. And so there were two that really held up. One was stand and walk across the room. The rapidity in which you do that is a strong predictor. And that's mainly strength. The ability to quickly get up off a chair and begin walking. But the stronger predictor was grip strength. And there are actually charts where someone's grip strength at age 60, and you take a look at, this is how long they're going to live. Of course, it's not one-to-one. It's like anything in science. But it's a very strong correlate. So, and that's one of the reasons, in all honesty, where I kind of got out of the yoga world, is that I saw so many people that were losing their muscle mass precipitously, and aging was not going well. I've really gotten to the point now where flexibility, forget about it, not important. Of course, you want to have freedom in your body. But if we're taking a look at we are aging and how do we stay active? Cardio, muscle mass, and some amount of mobility. But mobility by itself is not worth much.
So is the grip strength a reflection of muscle mass or strength?
Typically, it's considered a proxy for muscle mass. Now, you ask a really astute question because we take a look at strength as a neural component and not just a muscle mass component. But in this particular instance, most people are not training their grip so that they've really cultivated more efficient neuromuscular recruitment patterns. So for the average person off the street, if you take a look at grip strength, it does tend to be proxy for what their muscle mass is. And muscle mass one place tends to predict muscle mass systemically. So that's pretty much the idea that's riding behind that. Now, if we were to start doing a lot of this kind of grip work, we're going to see very rapid gains in strength that are primarily neuromuscular. Then all bets are off in terms of this research. But I'm probably I've been talking this past week about motor learning, and I'm going just very surface into it. I'm going to talk next week about the epoch phase, what happens post-exercise, and then I'll probably circle back to motor learning and specifically neuromuscular efficiency. More than likely. We'll see where things go. All right. Well, I'm seeing we're at the appointed hour, and super honored that you took your time out of your day to be here. And as ever, this recording will be available. And any comments, questions, please feel free to reach out. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.